Hello and welcome to Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. I'm Becky Parker Geist and I'm your host. Audiobook Connection is your place to learn about the audiobook creative process in discussions between the authors, narrators, producers, and post-production teams that bring them all together, as well as guests who have listened to the audiobooks and have questions for the creative teams. This podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Hi, I'm Becky Parker Geist. I am the host of Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. I'm also president of Bay Area Independent Publishers Association and the CEO and founder of Pro Audio Voices and AMPlify Audiobooks, providing audiobook and podcast production, distribution, and marketing. And I am very happy to have with me today R.E. Fernandez, author of Sins, Tragedies, and Other Things That Make Us Human. Ramon, welcome.
Hopeful. Hey, thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be with you. Well, tell us a little bit about your background. Kind of, when did you get started writing? What intrigued you or got you started, inspired you in your process of writing? What was that like?
Well, I started writing 2020. Originally, I went to school for game design, and as I was going through the process, I think I was for about a year. I was a year in game design, and I enjoyed it. It was just to the point where, I came to the realization, because, I didn't go to college until I was in my 30s. I was 30 years old. So I was at that realization, like, I love it, but the amount of time needed to master the coding, I needed a lot more time. And when it comes to coding, your creativity means nothing if you can't create a sentence that could make that a playable thing. Other than that, it's just words on paper. So, I took a break from school and, just to think about because my main thing was I wanted to create, stories and create, experiences. So I came across creative writing and I fell in love instantly. I was like, wow, I wish I knew about this world years ago,
Awesome. Yeah.
So that's how it happened. It was 2020 and then, I've been writing ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. So were there any particular books that you encountered, or what was it that sort of opened that world for you?
It's a few books. William Cooper, Behold the Pale Horse. When I came across that book rocked my world. Books from David Icke. The Fire and Ice Saga is a great, great story. I love that. I read all 5 of those books. I'm desperately waiting for the 6th one, whenever George gets to it,
Yeah.
That book was real great. And other stuff like 48 Laws of Power, even like Jay-Z's biography, DMX biography. It's a wide range of books, but anything that, takes me outside of, my norm, like what's in front of me, especially years ago, it was different because we didn't have internet and the phone to where you could just get on and just, to get into that outside of your realm, you had to open a book and, and learn things that was, that wasn't regular for you, so it was various different books, different genres that's piqued my interest.
Yeah, nice. And then that when you just decided to start doing some writing yourself, is this the first project that you started with, Sins, Tragedies, and Other Things That Make Us Human?
Actually, yes. When I originally published a book in 2020, it was an assignment for class. The assignment was for us to publish our own work, and it's like a simple process, because it's not like something big. It's like something, I forgot the website that we use, but it's legitimate. It publishes it and it puts it, all out, just ebook only. So that was my first book, was the Sins, Tragedies, and Other Things That Make Us Human. So for the 5th year anniversary, I decided, to make it an audiobook.
Yeah. Yeah. Were there things that you, as you think back to the process of writing it and, fulfilling that assignment, but basically that, opening that up for yourself, did you find that there were things that you learned about yourself?
That's a good question. You know what? As I write each story, it kind of sticks with you, especially, at least when I create a story, even if it's a short story, I like to have a well-crafted world, so everything feels tangible. It doesn't feel flat, like, so even though, I have like this much research, and for the short story, I'm only using this much. For me, like that just makes the most sense, because even for that little bit that you get to know that character, you could kind of see the dimensions there because it exists, So, but yeah, so I end up, it definitely, each character and each story definitely, sticks with me. And I kind of find myself like kind of righting my wrongs, like thoughts or like ideas or like, maybe conflicts I have within myself, I kind of like write it out and get to express it that way.
Yeah. I can see how coming to it from having had some at least preliminary experience in game development, and that, you really are creating whole worlds in gaming as well, that I can see how that would play a part in the way that you're thinking about the research and the work on each story.
Mm-hmm.
And each story is different. So tell us a little bit about that and the what those different, about the collection and your thinking in terms of each story that's included in that collection.
Okay. Well, yeah, like you said, each story is different, and they came from like different classes throughout my course at school. So yeah, but each short story was written as an assignment. For the first one, which is Blackout, it originally started as a picture. Our professor gave us a picture, and it was like a black and white picture. To me, I looked at it and automatically thought like 50s, 60s, just by the style of the furniture and like the clothes that the people had in the picture. So it was a very simple picture. And then from there, he said, just create a story based off the picture. And it was just like a hotel room with 2 beds in there. And then you see a woman sitting on a sofa with a man sitting in front of her, talking to her. That's all you see. And then from there, he said, okay, just create. So, from there, I just dwelled, and like I said, I automatically thought 50s and 60s. And I don't know why. I think I might have just at that time watched Night of the Living Dead, for the first time as an adult. And, and then I realized like how big of a big deal that was when it first came out. Because, nowadays, of course, it's not a big deal. But at that time, there was no such thing as a Black protagonist, So and it was crazy because people went into an uproar more because of the Black protagonist, and not even because there was a scene where the mother killed her, where the daughter killed her mother, or like, like there was all this kind of gore that was like never seen before, and people totally skipped that part and was like, hold on a second, there's a Black man leading that movie, So it was just like, so it just came together for me, and I don't know, it just made sense with the picture, and I said, you know what, let me just make it a story where, Carl, the producer of the movie, is introducing the role to Judith, who is the one that played the film. Now, mind you, it's complete fiction. Like, I don't know if she reacted like that,
Sure,
but
yeah.
I just found it funny, like, like little dark humor, because of how society reacted to it,
Right. Yeah.
So that's how Blackout came to be. Porn Sacrifice, which is the next story, our professor told us that he wanted us to write a story. He said it could be loosely based on, but it has to be built around the museum theft, the Isabella Gardner museum theft that happened in 1990 that, still is unsolved to this day, where they walked away. So he said, he wanted us to have a story about that. So, I dwelt on it for a second and did some research, found out the players, like who were around and who were the suspects at the time. And, I said, what, instead of like going into the story and, making it obvious, how about like make a story to where a person is completely oblivious to what's going on around them, and they have no idea of the stuff that's happening, like the major moves and like the kind of things that the high stakes that's being played, and they're just being used as basically a pawn, a donkey to move it from one place to the other,
Yeah.
And so I just came at it from that perspective, and I kind of like how it came together, because it's like, if you know the details of that day, you'd be like, oh, wait, hold on a second. He's talking about the museum theft, like these people are committing a theft, and this poor guy has no idea what's going on,
Yeah.
and, because he's busy battling his own demons, and, trying to get his life together and stuff like that. So, yeah, so that's how Porn Sacrifice came to be. Marine Con, that one I had more freedom. That one I didn't have like a certain, like a picture or a thing. They just say, come up with a story, and automatically, like, I felt like talking about, the Black Wall Street massacre was very important to me, only because that I was disappointed to I had to learn that outside of school, and what's weird, the weirdest part to me about it is that, I grew up in Hempstead, Long Island, which is a predominantly Black and Spanish neighborhood. And even though growing up in that school district, we didn't learn about that. Why something that happened that was so devastating? It was a domestic terrorist attack, and to not even mention it in school, it like baffled me, So I did research about it, found out about, the how it came to be, and what was the aftermath and stuff like that, and decided to, like, make a historical fiction base, during the massacre. So that's how that story came to be. The next story after that is is Rika. Rika is also another story that I had total freedom to do. And with that one, I kind of put a lot into such a small, short story. Now, mind you, all these are short stories because as assignments, they gave us word limits,
okay.
like don't pass a certain word limit. You have to like get used to being able to tell your story, within a certain limit. So that's why they all came out short stories. But with Rika, I crammed in a lot in such a short period of time because I really wanted to show like the contrast between how people treat God and how they treat money. Even though money is like something man-made and has no real value versus something as, spiritual and God as something as a guiding light for humans, how, the materials could be held on a higher standard and be more important to people than being spiritually clean or like having a good heart, and being morally bright, So that plays this back seat to when it comes to finances and wealth and stuff like that. And I wanted to demonstrate how the world is the way it is, not because by chance or by coincidence, it's because there's people in high positions that are manipulating the rest of the people, and through this manipulation, it causes suffering, a lot of suffering for, one group of people, while another group of people get to have the full benefits of life, And so I kind of wanted to demonstrate that with the Rika Diamond and, the story transitioning from Africa to America. But even though in the story, I did it backwards. I started in America at the end of the story at 12 o'clock. And then if you notice, the time goes back 10 minutes every segment until 11 o'clock. So that's how that story came to be. Then the last story, the Picados, was actually the professor gave us an assignment where they wanted us to take a line from any of our stories and remix it into a completely different story.
Oh, that's a fun one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I took a line from one of the stories and I completely remixed it. I believe it was from Rika, and I completely changed it into this whole other thing. And then what the Picados is basically the seven sins are, they're like manifested into an immortal family. And there's a secret government. Well, I won't say secret government, but like a private military that's after them. And the private military has been hired by like elite people that, unknown wealthy people. So it's just again, another short story, but it gives like a quick glimpse of the realm of the Picados, like how they could take over any human who has that sin in their heart, So if a person has ego is their thing, then ego himself could take over you because, you have that sin in your heart, the same with gluttony, peak and stuff like that. So that's how the Picados came to be. So, and then that's all 5 stories.
When you had this collection of stories, did you struggle at all with like what to call the collection, the title?
Yeah, when it came to putting it together, I played around, with a few names, just to kind of like summarize all the stories together. But honestly, because since this was like 2020, I don't even remember how the title Sins, Tragedies, and Other Things that came. But I know when I came up with it, my professor was like, "Boy, you want to pick a longer title?" Like he was like, he was like, "You might not have a cover big enough for that," So, but I just felt like it was important to name it that though because it fit so perfectly.
Yeah. Ramon, let's just take a short pause and we're going to come right back. Sins, Tragedies, and Other Things That Make Us Human, written by R.E. Fernandez and narrated by Gillian Williams, is a collection of 5 thought-provoking short stories that blend historical fiction, dark humor, and contemporary drama. Each tale holds a mirror to society, exposing the shadows we often choose to ignore. Unflinching and unsettling, this book is not for the faint of heart, but for those willing to confront the darker side of humankind. Get your copy of Sins, Tragedies, and Other Things That Make Us Human by R.E. Fernandez on AMPlify Audiobooks today. Coming back to talking about sins, tragedies, and other things that make us human. So what is your aspiration with it moving forward? Or do you have another writing project in the works? Or what's...
Yeah, right now I'm working on my first novel, probably going to be a 3-book series called The Lion's Den. It's going to be based, in Long Island. Yeah, that one is going to be, it's going to be epic. I'm guessing like at least a couple 100 pages. So it's going to be like my first real writing project, basically, because I directed and produced a short film called Hollowed Hollow that's streaming on Via Network right now. But, that was a cool project, but that was also from another short story I wrote in school. So this book, The Lion's Den, is going to be my first real project outside outside of school where I, sat down and created it and, got down with with the hard work. But now as far as like my aspirations for my writing, honestly, I want to be known as the storytelling version of David Icke and William Cooper. But now when I say the storytelling version, I don't mean like just being able to put like a beginning, middle, and end together. No, I mean like creating fun, intricate stories with characters that resonate with with the readers. I kind of envision my work revealing itself to the reader like Morpheus revealed the red and blue pill to Neo.
Yeah.
Regardless of which one you take, it's going to be a story you never forget. The only difference is what you remember.
Right. Right.
So pretty much, the conspiracy theories author.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That's cool. That's cool. Great.
Yeah.
As we were moving into the audiobook process, getting your collection of short stories into audio, talk to us a little bit about what the casting process was like for you. I know you picked Gillian Williams to narrate your collection. She's awesome. What was that like for you, hearing your words in the auditions, spoken by a range of narrators? And was the decision hard? I mean, tell us what that was like for you.
Well, this is the first time that, I did an audiobook. So it was definitely a new process for me. But listening to the narrators, it was cool because it's definitely like, as I write it, I hear it, and I hear it in my head as I write it and I read it. But to hear somebody else read it, it just gives it a whole new life. And honestly, Jillian kind of made it easy because when I heard her, it just automatically just like she separated herself because, as she read it, she gave life to the words because like the tone was, different depending on what was being said, and then when she said the dialogue, she gave each, character their own distinct voice, which to me is like, it just adds to the immersiveness, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yes. Her right there, Jillian, please,
Yeah.
So it worked out. Yeah, man, I'm happy.
Great. So a lot of our listeners are authors who haven't been through the audiobook process yet, but they're interested in understanding what that's like. So I like to ask questions about is there anything about the process of the audiobook production that either stands out to you or that was surprising to you as you went through it?
Honestly, you guys made it a lot easier than I thought it would be. Like the way you guys streamlined it, from the beginning, we got together. Okay. As soon as I handed in my manuscript, we went through it. You guys got back to me, like, with any little corrections that you saw. It was just so fast and so simple. Like I didn't expect it to be done, because we just started this like, well, it was like a month or two ago the most, so it's like, so one thing is I was definitely surprised of how, but of course that's because you guys, know what you're doing and, you do your job very well. So, but I was very surprised at how fast and easy it was.
Oh, great. Great. And where would it be the best place for our listeners to learn more about you and your writing and what you're up to?
For right now, I only have my social media, but like on Instagram, I'm on Instagram as The Writing Wolf. And then on Facebook, I'm on Facebook by my author name, R.E. Fernandez. Let me just see on my Instagram. I'm sorry. So I could give you the exact. So on my Instagram, it's a wolf with a pen. And that's A_wolf_ with the pen. No space.
Great. And then, of course, we are going to encourage folks to get your audiobook on AMPlify Audiobooks. And very soon, after this episode goes live, before the end of this year, we're going to have, as the AMPlify Audiobooks platform is going to be a place where you'll be able to communicate directly with your listeners and they with you and with the narrator and engage in conversations, do audiobook clubs, all kinds of possibilities for you there.
Oh, wow.
So
wow, that's cool.
That'll be a nice...
that audiobook club is nice.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a cool idea.
Yeah. All right. Well, R.E. Fernandez, author of Sins, Tragedies, and Other Things That Make Us Human. Ramon, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. It was the pleasure was all mine. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us for Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. Please take a moment to subscribe at audiobookconnection.com. The podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Learn more at proaudiovoices.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and please join us next week.